Hey guys, this guide is going to give you everything you need to quickly get started with your brand new mage in Legends of Aria. I'm going to show you what skills you should start off with, how to get set up with everything you need, and finally, we will head out to Halls of Corruption. This will be by far the best place to hang out as a mage during your first weeks. So what's the rush in getting to Halls of Corruption anyhow? I mean, most people spend their first days running around killing mobs in the graveyards or camps and do just fine. The problem with those is that the mobs there don't drop any reagents or spells, and unlike other classes, the mage has a fundamental difference it has to deal with, namely the endless amount of reagents it consumes to cast spells. No reagents, no spells, and thus no way to do damage and progress in the game. Unlike graveyards and bandit camps, Halls of Corruption is filled to the brim with mobs that drop reagents, scrolls, and new spells to add to your spellbook. It's like a mage's paradise. This means you will be able to go in there to make money and gain skills without ever running out. In fact, you will come out of Halls of Corruption with more reagents than you had going in. So you might be saying to yourself, "Cats, this all sounds too good to be true. But how on earth could I possibly take a newly rolled mage into corruption on my first day?" I didn't say it was going to be easy, but it is doable, as you will see in this video. I've done this now with 2 mages so far, and the one we are going to make during this tutorial will be the 3rd time using this method, which only proves that it really does work. So let's get started by rolling a new character. In class selection, we'll ignore the default mage template. Instead, I prefer to set the skills myself, so we're going to go to the advanced options. The important thing for your mage when you first start off is to do as much damage as possible. Evocation is the Magery skill for casting damage spells. Healing spells, on the other hand, fall under the manifestation skill. At this point, healing spells are the last thing we need to think about, so instead of giving 30 points to manifestation, as offered by the default mage template, instead we will be putting all of our skill points into anything that helps us do damage. Your number 1 skill is Evocation. Set that to the maximum 30 points. Next, we'll choose Magic Affinity, which enhances the damage-dealing offensive spells. Set that to 30 as well. Next, we'll take Channeling, which will help us regain mana as fast as possible. Set that also to 30. Lastly, we'll add Manifestation in there, using up the remaining 10 points. Next, we need to choose what town to start in. Elder Village is the closest town to Halls of Corruption, so that seems like the natural choice. So here we are in Elder Village with our brand new mage, and I've already gone through the tutorial. Let's check out the spellbook to see what it looks like. You can open your character window by pressing C, and your spellbook by right-clicking the book your character is holding. Make sure to always have your spellbook equipped, as it will actually give you defensive benefits that you will not get if it's merely in your inventory. As we can see, we have a couple of damage spells under the Evocation tab and a couple of healing spells under the Manifestation tab. All spells that we will add to our spellbook from this point on will fall under either of these 2 tabs. In your inventory, you should have a pouch full of reagents and a little bit of silver by default. On the left, we can see the spell bar. By default, the game has already put in a few spells to get started. These are, of course, very weak spells that we could hardly use to kill anything in Halls of Corruption. So before we can even dream of going there, we're going to need a fireball spell. This is something we can actually make ourselves very easily with a little bit of inscription and money. But first things first, we need bandages to keep ourselves healed, so I'm going to go and pick some cotton. There are 2 cotton fields in Legends of Aria, one in Pyro's Landing and the other here in Elder Village. Another good reason for us to start here. So, remember when I said that we don't have to care about manifestation healing spells at this point? That's because the primary way we're going to keep ourselves alive is not with Magery, but by healing ourselves with bandages. There are 3 good reasons for this. 1. When you're deep in a dungeon and surrounded by mobs, you can't afford to be spending your valuable mana on healing spells. You need to conserve all of that delicious mana for your damage spells. 2nd, casting a spell takes time and has a higher chance of being interrupted and failing. Bandaging, however, is instant and has a much lesser chance of failing. When you're in those dire situations, every second counts, and you don't want to be risking a failed heal. Lastly, and most importantly, you can bandage yourself on the run, whereas casting spells forces you to stand in place. This makes all the difference in the world when you're running for your life. Now that we have some cotton, we'll turn it into cloth at the local loom. Doing this raises the fabrication skill that you won't need as a mage, so the optimal situation is to have a separate crafting character who can make all the cloth for you beforehand. For now though, we're not going to worry about that, as we can later remove the fabrication skill when we've got all of that sorted. Once all the cotton has been turned into cloth, double-click the hunting knife in your inventory to equip it. Press Q and target the cloth to start making bandages. Once all the cloth has been turned into bandages, we're ready to go kill some mobs in the local sewers. The entrance is on the southern side of the inn. Before going in, there's a couple of things we still need to do. First, we should drag our brand new bandages onto the spell bar for easy access. Second, remember when we took the channeling skill? Although this skill will help mana regenerate passively, it also has its own ability called Focus, which you can find from the skill book channeling page. Drag the focus icon onto your spell bar, as you will be using this constantly. Now we're finally ready to make some money. If you already got money from one of your alts or from a friend, you can skip this part completely and go straight to the inscription part of the tutorial. I will leave timestamps in the comments below. Once inside, start killing stuff with the 2 damage spells you already have, until you have run out of reagents. In between battles, remember to heal yourself with the bandages you made. Since you had no healing skill to begin with, healing will be super slow in the beginning, but this is a skill that goes up fast, and thankfully bandages are free to make, so just keep healing with them as much as possible to get healing and vigor gains. To regenerate mana, remember to keep using your focus ability after fights. You will know it succeeded when you see little sparkles surrounding your character. Like healing, it will also fail a lot in the beginning, but will quickly go up in skill. If you can afford the extra 6 silver, you can always train up healing at the local general store and vigor from any guard in town. Vigor improves the amount of healing you do. Once you've run out of reagents, you can buy more at the local alchemist. For the next hour, you should continue the cycle of killing mobs, healing with bandages, and buying more reagents until you've made an extra 4 silver to spend. Once you have an extra 4 silver, we're finally ready to go get our fireball spell, which will do much more damage than the mana missile and rune spells that we've been using up till now. With your money, go to the local scribe who is in the northeastern part of the town. Talk to him to train up inscription. Even if you don't have any intention to keep inscription for this character later on, it's worth doing this for the fireball spell alone, and is a small price to pay. Once you've trained inscription, buy some blank scrolls from the scribe's table. You only need a few. Also, make sure you have some lemongrass in your inventory, as that will be needed for the fireball spell. Next, double-click the inscription table and create a fireball spell. Now, drag the fireball scroll onto your spellbook to add it, and voila, it should now be listed under the Evocation tab. Go to the fireball page and drag the icon to your spellbar. Fireball is now your primary way to do damage, so feel free to remove the rune and mana missile spells, as you won't be needing them anymore. We are now ready for Halls of Corruption, but I recommend using a few minutes to test out your new fireball spell at the graveyard nearby. The zombies are perfect practice targets as they walk really slowly. Once you feel like you've gotten a handle on things, you're probably ready to go to Halls of Corruption for the very first time. Before leaving Elder Village, make sure you have the following: your Hearthstone for teleporting back to town, at least 200 bandages, at least 100 lemongrass for your fireball spells, at least 50 ginseng to cure poison. Although bandages do cure poison, that won't happen until you have at least 60 healing skill. So for now, you're still dependent on using the cure spell, which should already be in your spell book. If it's not yet on your spell bar, make sure to add it. Just so you know, corruption mobs love to poison you, so you're going to need the cure spell a lot in the beginning. Everything else in your inventory should be left at the bank, even other reagents. You will most likely die a lot in the beginning and you will need the extra space anyhow for the loot you will accumulate. To get to Halls of Corruption from Elder Village, you should run south along the river until you reach this bridge. Cross that and head northeast. The dungeon is right about there. We're finally here and about to enter. The first mobs we will encounter are imps, and while they don't spawn at the entrance, sometimes they might be hanging around if they've chased somebody out. Lucky for us, the entrance seems empty this time. When we first start here, we have to do things very carefully and cautiously. While the imps are pretty weak and easy to kill, they also do a lot of damage and dying comes easy here. So the way to get started is to very carefully lure one imp at a time up to the top of the stairs and stay next to the portal so you can go out and heal. At this point, you won't yet be able to take an imp down all in one go, since you'll still be failing many of your fireballs, but as long as you stick next to the exit portal, you should be okay. Remember to focus to get your mana up. Go back in, rinse and repeat. At first, you'll have to keep bouncing in and out of the dungeon to heal quite often, but before long, you'll be able to take an imp down all in one go. Once you get to that point, the key is to bombard them with spells as fast as possible without healing yourself until they're dead. At some point, an imp will drop the poison scroll, which you can then add to your spellbook. I usually like to start my attacks with poison, because it will cause the mob to pause and lose focus, giving me the perfect opportunity to load up spells in between. Once you start gaining more skill, you can go in a little deeper and take on additional imps at the same time, but for your first day, I recommend playing it safe and sticking very close to the entrance and fighting only one imp at a time for now. If you do die, there is a shrine just south of the dungeon where you can resurrect. Later on, you will be able to go deeper into the dungeon, facing harder mobs that will drop more money and higher level spells for your spellbook. And if you get all the way to the end, there is a chamber with some demon bosses which drop a lot of money. Killing those demons is one of my favorite ways to farm gold. If you think that your mage is going to become your main character, you might also want to consider building a house right outside of Halls of Corruption, as you will always be needing reagents as a mage, so you'll be visiting Corruption often to stock up on more. As we can see, I've been very cautious. I've gone outside to heal and have managed to kill 2 imps already without dying, even though we just made this character only a couple of hours ago. This is an excellent start, and it will only get easier as long as I play safe and stick near the entrance for now. And that's pretty much it. I'm sure there are many other ways to go about starting a new mage, but this method has proven to be really successful for me at least. I hope it's been useful for you as well. May you have many fun times with your new mage, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer.